Welcome to Conversations. Suresh Kochak. The Ayodhya donation, I wouldn't call it a scam, but definitely there was something that took place there. What went wrong? How it could have been prevented? And more importantly, what's the way forward? We all know that we have fought for generations to come up with the Mandir at Ayodhya. The idol of Ram Lalla there is a kind of dream that many Indians had gone through. For the lifetime, they wanted that idol to be there, to be worshipped. But for the last 1 month, we have seen a revelation a day. Politicians of every hue and cry kind of making a huge noise about it. Why? For one thing is clear, it is the institution that has failed. That is the trust at Ayodhya. They lost their trust. That's a simple fact as that. Be it Champat Rai or anybody else in the hierarchy there, they had the responsibility to see that nothing would go wrong there. And it is a systemic failure. It was a failure of a process. It was a failure of not adhering to the standard operating procedures. Let's look at different aspects of this particular case. One, in the run-up to the construction of the Ram Mandir at Ayodhya, a lot of donations were received, both in cash and kind. It obviously means cash obviously is way of checks. More importantly, 90-95% I was told was all checks, because this team went around the country, the trust members, and met different industrialists, individuals, and everybody, big and small, everyone contributed. That part of it, there's no dispute. But the amount that was collected, 3,000 odd crores, of which 2,000 crores was spent, and all that kind of stuff. But that dispute is not what is the case in point. But what happened subsequently, boxes as we call it, that were kept in different places. The traditional hundi, in which people used to put the money when they entered the temple. And that is where things went wrong. What happened to the cash that was put into it, the valuables that were given into it, and more importantly, the counting process? I fail to understand one thing. After having seen what went wrong in the Tirumala temple long ago, where the counting was compromised, a lot of steps were brought in to ensure that it never ever happens again. There were standard operating procedures that were brought in, which even today is followed to the T. The set of executive officers that were appointed to the Tirumala Tirupati Devasthana were men of very high caliber, and they ensured that nothing went wrong. Even then, there were instances of corruption among the lower level staff by selling the rooms, that is, the places where the devotees could stay, the cottages as they would call it, or by selling the darshan tickets. That also was nipped in the bud. But still, maybe something is still going on, we don't know. But the major part of it, the counting part of it, was taken care. Because the amount used to be in crores every day. In Ayodhya, we are told that the process was very simple. There were 40 boxes kept at different places, and they would be brought to the counting room where the counting would be done. There were 20 people, 25 people in 3 different shifts working, counting the cash. The cash was supposed to be deposited in the State Bank of India at Ayodhya itself, in the temple premises. But there is where things went wrong. A set of people conspired together to knock off amounts, big amounts from there. Because if they had taken the entire thing, obviously there would have been doubts. So they were pilfering small amounts, adding up to a big amount. And they were carrying it out in different ways. Here again is a failure of the standard operating procedures. In any temple counting facility, we are always told one thing: the persons who are coming in to count will not be wearing clothes which have pockets, or where things can be carried out in the dress itself. So there will be a simple mundu, as we call it in Kerala, or pancha as we call it, denswear, that would be worn, and there would be a light vest over it, nothing else. Of course, when they come in, they would be carrying some cash because they were coming from home or elsewhere. That is to be deposited with the security or the office or wherever it is outside. Once they enter, after the counting process is over, when they leave, there's supposed to be a frisking to ensure that they don't not carrying anything out. And here again it failed. It was given to a private agency, which I believe never did its job properly. These people subsequently started taking out amounts and putting it in different places or giving it to different people so that it could be carted out. They were kept in toilets, we were told, in bathrooms and other places. And from there it was carried outside. Why? Why did that happen? Obviously, there was at every step of the process. Let's assume that everything is set out as is right now. And when the special investigation team that was tasked to find out and unearth this entire process of how this thing was carried out, found out that the total collection that is coming into the hundis these days, after the thing was all exposed and the SIT came into being, is around 24 to 26 lakh rupees every day. And before this, the average collection that used to go to the bank was around 17 to 18 lakhs, which means there is an 8 lakh gap that is there. Now multiply that 8 lakhs with 30 days, you would get around 2.4 crores, and then you multiply that with 29 months of the period between when the temple opened, the mandir opened, and when the scam came to light, 60 odd crores. Now I'm not saying all 60 had gone out. Some days the collection would have been lower because of less crowd. Some days it would have been very high, as was during the Kumbh Mela. But that's not the point. The point is, you have cheated the Lord. The people who have done it, they were brought in different points in time with the recommendation of different set of people. It is supposed to be a job of the State Bank of India, the bank that was tasked with this counting process. These days, there are machine countings available. That is, you get machines in which you put notes of every genre, every size scale, and it would count each note, 10 rupees separately, the 20 rupees separately, the 50 rupees separately, the 100 rupees separately, and the 500 rupees separately. It would give you a count. I fail to understand, when smaller temples are using this facility, why is a big kshetra like at the Ayodhya one not doing it, or were not doing it? They must have been using counting machines once the notes are bundled up. But what about before that? Why I'm saying is because that would reduce the time taken to count and reduce the number of people taken to count. I believe from the media report that I was reading that around, these employees used to be paid around 20,000 rupees per month. And after cutting and all, it was around 15,000 rupees, which is, I think, very, very less. And obviously, that becomes a point where they feel that they need to enrich themselves. 20,000 is too less. Why don't I put 1,000 rupees in my pocket? So that becomes 30,000 a month. That's the logic. But does it stop at 1,000? No. He tucks in a couple of bundles of notes, carries it outside. And now we are seeing 6 to 8 people who have been arrested, and their property is being analyzed. A lot of cash has been seized, assets have been seized, movable and immovable. But that brings us to the moot point again. How about things at other dargahs and masjids and mosques, or whatever you want to call it, religious institutions within the Muslim community? What about the Christian community? This rot is there everywhere. When money is there, the tendency to steal is also there. It happens in different scales and sizes. That is the only difference. The problem is, in the case of Ayodhya, it was a victory that we got after 500 odd years. There was a belief that daan dena hai Bhagwan ke liye, as they say in Hindi. But what about the caretakers of the daan we have given? The one good thing I've seen in this entire process is the fact that apart from the building donations that came in 2,000 odd crores, the other part of it, which is basically the valuables that were given to the Lord, be it Padukas, be it Ramcharitramanas in gold, all that stuff is safe. And that is something that the SIT has gone through, and also the trust has actually shown. Now that the trust is being dissolved in all respects, because a lot of members have resigned or kind of have been sacked, a new CEO is being appointed. It's a good thing. Here again, I would suggest to the Ayodhya Trust that they should look at the model of TTD and discover how it was done. Maybe even call in some of the ex-EOs, executive officers of the TTD, to come down there from the endowments departments or other places. They would have the expertise in managing such huge amounts of money securely and in a correct manner. This issue has shaken the faith of the devotees. They are asking themselves, how can you cheat the Lord? Will you get away from it? No, it's not. The people who have done this will be caught, have been caught. And of course, their property is being seized and should be auctioned. Of the 60 odd crores that are supposed to have gone out, even if 60 crores are recovered, I think the battle is won. But the moot point remains, the belief has been shattered. It's time that we realize that why we are fighting for temples which should be independent of government control. Now the government has a moot point. They will say, look, we gave you the temple to run it and you misused it. So we should take over. And this is what happens to various endowment temples and temples run by different devasthanams. Of course, we know what happened in Sabarimala in Kerala, case in point, where the entire cladding was knocked off, 23 odd kilos which Vijay Mallya had given. Where did it go? How was it stolen? It's a matter of investigation that is still going on. This is the problem. Now we are told there's something in Badrinath. We need to investigate that. There is a set of Muslims who come and complained about their organization being cheated by the trustees of their religion, 100 odd crores. That needs to be investigated. Everywhere, there's the problem. Waqf lands are knocked off, sold by the Mutablis. I know a case in point in Hyderabad, where there's a dargah called Kohe Imam Zameen in Ammaguda. The entire land around that was, I was told during the Nizam's era, belonged to either the military, that is the British Army, or to the Mutawlis, that is ones who were running the Dargah. But today, that entire land has been knocked off. The Dargah or the Koh-i-Imam Zameen only has the land on which it is standing. The rest all have gone. I'm just giving you one example of it. How real estate sharks have knocked off the land, manipulating records in the defense estate offices and other places. How A1 lands of army has been taken away, and the army is doing nothing about it. Be it land or be it gold or be it currency. The tendency of human beings is, I need more. I need to earn more. Ethics, to hell with it. This is the problem. It's time that the happenings at the Ram Mandir in Ayodhya becomes a wake-up call for the devotees in Hinduism. We need to ask questions. We need to ask really hard questions. How did it happen? Why did it happen? Who are kind of behind it? How many have been punished? It should not be the case in point that 6 months from now, we will forget about this case. The guys who have stolen this money walk away on bail, and then this case drags on for years and years and years. The punishment has to be quick. The recovery and the auction of assets has to be immediate. And of course, a process set in that would ensure that this never ever happens again. And I'm sure Lord Ram will be happy with what he's saying. Right? It's not that he would be happy with what happened, because we all say that we need the Ram Raj, a Raj where there's no corruption, where everybody is treated equal, people are happy. But then, is it really that way? No matter what happens in Delhi and how much stability Delhi has, and the kind of rule that the Modi government is doing in terms is appreciable, definitely. There's no major corruption case against any minister or anybody in the cabinet till date after 12 years, including the Prime Minister. Nothing against anybody. But the happenings at Ayodhya kind of reflect as a long shadow that falls on the Modi government. It can't be expected of Modi ji to kind of look into Ayodhya every day. There was a trust who was entrusted with it. And as I said before, that trust broke our trust. Now comes the repairing part, a CEO, a new board of trustees, and of course, a cleanup of the entire counting and kind of system by which valuables are received, kind of inventoried, and of course, put in safe places. The entire wealth belongs to the Lord, not to you or me. That's all I have to say. Thank you for watching. Jai Hind.